All right, we are here with week 8 of It's Business Time here at Stitch House. We have Mr. Rob Vander in the house from Summit Mechanical. And before we get rolling here, got a lot to ask him about. He's got a storied story, I would say. But before we get rolling here, I do want to give a quick shout out to Stitch House for having us. It's a great spot to do any small business event. Definitely a great spot for food, drinks, all of those things. Real quick, Rob, what is it that you're drinking over here?
I am drinking the Snitches Get Stitches.
Snitches Get Stitches, and I'm here with the Big
IPA.
Stitch Nick, the IPA, the wire beer. Got you. So definitely support your local brewery. Come through, grab yourself a drink. Make sure to when we get rolling here, lean in a little bit more so the lovely people at home can hear your good story. So.
Gotcha.
One of the reasons that I wanted to have you through, again, Rob Vander, welcome to the show here. My hand is outreached. There we go. Thanks for coming through. He is the general manager at Summit Mechanical, a construction and basically mechanical solutions company fluctuating between 40, 50, up all the way up to 60 employees at your high. And so, yeah, let's just go all the way back. I've known you for a long time here. And how long have you been with?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's a thing, but always been a great friend despite not liking that to be your MO. But so how long have you been with Summit? And tell me a little bit about those early days. How did you get involved with them? How many employees did y'all have in the beginning there?
So I kind of went back and forth. I'm not the actual owner of the company, but I've worked with the owner since prior companies where we worked together also. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can.
And so I've worked with the current company for about, I'm going to say 12-ish years.
Okay.
I did leave for a period of time and come back. So if you talk total service years, it would be around like 14 or something. I was gone for a couple years in the middle there, but this current spat about 10, 12 years and, a couple years at the beginning.
And so when you joined, it was just you and the owner. Is that right?
And some field guys, yeah. But we kind of branched off from a larger former company, started the new thing, and it was small to start with. It grew to, the size you mentioned earlier. But when it first started, there were a few of us,
Got you. So this question is going to be kind of broad. Obviously, you've changed through the years, but let's get it started too by tell a little bit of like what the company does and kind of maybe what differentiates you from, like, when someone says construction company, right? Like that's
Sure.
like it can be anything from repairing curbs all the way up through like building,
Sure.
AstraZeneca,
So we don't do much curb work, but mostly we're a plumbing HVAC contractor. Or full, what you'd call in the construction industry a full mechanical contractor,
Gotcha.
which entails plumbing and HVAC. We primarily deal with commercial and industrial applications, more actually industrial than commercial, and institutional work, which means prisons, schools, etc., government-owned facilities. We don't really get into residential work unless there's it's a residential property of, commercial size.
Are you building these from scratch, or are you going in and adding additions, all of the above?
Both, yeah.
Both? Okay,
yeah, I
wow.
mean, I'd say our forte is more the repair and correction of existing facilities than it is building new, but we're welcome to build new, and there's kind of some stratification in what we do, and that we can work on either side.
So in the beginning, tell me about the early years, right? It's you and the owner, and you were brought on to add new business, to project manage. You were brought on because, you're handsome and charming. Like, what was the reason that this guy, what's his name, by the way, if you don't mind? Ed. What was the reason that Ed said, you know what, Rob's my guy. He's going to help me grow my business from 2 employees up to 50. Like, what was that like in the beginning there?
Well, originally, I kind of knew him through an acquaintance, not to get specific, but I went to engineering school. He was looking for somebody that knew how to do mechanical engineering, which is essentially ties into the design side of the HVAC.
University
and
of
the plumbing.
Delaware.
Well, not till grad school.
Not till grad school. Fair enough. Where'd you go first?
I went to Bucknell first.
Bucknell first. Gotcha.
So I got brought in for that, and that was kind of my in. And I think they realized when I got there that I had the ability to do things other than design, which frankly didn't really appeal to me that much. It wasn't something you really do much in engineering school. So I kind of transitioned pretty quickly to the sales and project management side.
Gotcha.
And I think I was better at that than the engineering side anyway. And it was more applications for what we did. So, I think engineering gives you a door in, but not necessarily, for most people, the career. It's kind of the entry point.
Yeah. So a big question that always happens to a lot of business owners when they're first starting out is they want to cast a really wide net and then find the areas in which there's a niche, something that they can do, a unique selling proposition versus what they can do better than other competition. So I kind of have this question, like in the beginning, were you guys pitching and selling the same thing that you're selling today 10 years later, or was it like a broader, like, can you tell me a little bit of like maybe one of the earlier big contracts that you and Ed landed?
Sure.
That let you knew you were onto something?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think we've kind of learned over the years that we were kind of going after the wrong stuff. And I don't say the wrong stuff in that margin-wise we were doing well, but we weren't landing the volume we needed. And
margin-wise, you were doing well with what sort of project?
Small service stuff,
Okay.
One guy here and there working for primarily big industrial plants,
Okay.
and dealing with their needs kind of on a like as they come, basis.
Almost like a retainer type scenario.
Essentially, yeah. Not to get too specific, and I think we realized as time went on that we were really good at that. That remains our strength, but it wasn't giving us the volume, and it wasn't allowing us to grow to where we wanted to be. And I think that we kind of started to dip our toes more as time went on into new construction, new buildings, new customers, and that's where I think we saw the real growth.
Yeah. There's an old saying, it's you can either find 100 customers to give you $1 or find one customer to give you 100. It sounds like you were starting out doing that more of like a lot of different customers with smaller amounts, but still margins are important. You can't grow without good margins. You look like you got a joke on your mind.
Well, I'd like to have 100 customers with $100 each.
Yeah, true.
But
true.
the reality is, I think you have to have almost a fallback. You got to have, when you're in the kind of industry that we're in, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of industries, that you have manpower, you have payroll commitments, and you need them to work on something.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not as busy as you want to be, but you need them to be busy because you need to bring money in to support their continued deployment. So,
right.
There's a balancing act between allowing them to, I guess, do their own thing and us forcing them to expand, the business.
By them, you mean the employees and the contractors that you're working with.
Yeah, well, the easiest thing for everybody is to do what they're doing already,
Right.
And you gotta force people to expand.
Yeah, this
force
is
people to know that they're worth more. They're not worth more, but they can do more than they're doing, and allow them to do it. Maybe give them the rope to do it, and see where it goes.
This is one of the things that I really hope we can get from you in this week, because a lot of times small businesses, they don't have to really get into project management because they're the sales department, they're the marketing department, they're the payroll department, they're all the departments, and then they have one or two people who maybe help with freelance projects. The last company I was in, we found a ton of success from 0 to 12 people. And then we went through a contraction period. So I haven't even in my own career experienced what it's like to get to the point where you're at 20, 30, 40 people. But before we get to that, and I do want to hear a little bit more about what it's like to try and keep people in their lane and keep people moving when you have that many employees. But before we get to that, if you could tell a little bit more about like, was there a particular contract or a particular moment where you and Ed knew like, okay, wow, we gotta start hiring. Like this is gonna get away from us unless we start getting a good crew together. Was there one contract or?
I'd say there was a time period. Listen, one contract and the way construction works, particularly the type of construction we do, it kind of, I don't want to say it goes with the economy, but it's kind of a bellwether industry in a lot of ways. And you'll see points where all of a sudden everybody's busy.
Yeah.
And when everybody's busy, you realize all your prices start landing. You don't know everybody's busy until people start calling back and saying, "Hey, everybody else's prices are going up." And then
right.
So there's been a few points over the years where it's we're not landing anything. The everybody's, I'm going to say, occupied work-wise. Everybody's full. And all of a sudden, bam, it's like you hit 7 jobs in a row. And I think that's forced us to almost change the way we look at how we bid work, how we approach work, how we manage work.
And keeping guys on retainer too is that's probably very hard to be like suddenly you have 7 jobs, you have all these guys,
right.
You're giving them work, you're training them, you're getting them on the job site and all this, and suddenly those jobs are over. If you can't give those guys work, they move on to the next company.
Exactly. So you get yourself into a little bit of a cycle where it's I'm about to run out of my guys. I don't have another job. My guys are gonna be off. Do I take the job cheaper and cheaper and cheaper until I get to the point where I land something, or at what point is there that crossover threshold where you say we got to move on and get the next guy and make the project work?
So growth contraction. I don't normally like to talk about COVID because everybody talks about it, but in the construction industry, that was a period where a lot of people kind of stopped spreading out and started to invest in the places they already have. Was that a boon for you guys, or was that a really difficult period for you guys?
No, to be honest with you, we have a good base of customers that I think trust what we do. And we had a lot of existing contracts with customers that allowed us to continue to work. Obviously we took the measures you needed to take to make sure everybody was safe, our guys and any customers we worked. And a lot of them, a lot of the concerns with COVID and realistically any kind of, whatever the terminology is, airborne disease,
Right.
A lot of that can be alleviated via air conditioning. So not to get technical, but
right. Well, you're the HVAC expert. You're the right guy to ask about it.
In some ways, when you can take the COVID that's in the building and blow it out of the building and bring air in that's not COVID, well, you're helping people. So, to some degree.
So were people looking for air management solutions during that period in a different way? So you were probably getting different sorts of contracts during that period.
Exactly
wow.
right.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people in the arts and music field, and that period for them was just like a barren wasteland. No work, can't even go out. But yeah, for construction, I remember that was a period where construction was kind of, it stayed in pace.
Well, I'm not going to say it was the same. I mean, we changed what our focus was. And I think I think companies that were able to understand that, what we've been doing for the last 25 years isn't going to work. Let's tweak it a little bit. Let's make sure everybody understands kind of what we can do. I think did better. I think honestly we did a good job during that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I spent a little time on your website, looked at some of the projects that y'all have. Again, Summit Mechanical is the company, and it definitely seemed like solutions to complex problems was a lot of like what your company does. Is there like a consulting element, or is that kind of baked into the? Yeah, I assume. But
well, the reality is our company is based on to simplify things as much as possible. When there's a problem, we figure out the solution, and that's kind of what HVAC service boils down to, plumbing service boils down to. When a customer calls you and says, "Hey, I'm hot." Right. I don't know going in what that issue is going to be, so all of my guys are kind of trained to think on the fly, to adapt, to figure out the source of the problem. And frankly, I think that lends well, in our type of industry to coming up with a new business model when it needs to happen, to say, hey, we need to work on outdoor air issues because there's a problem happening with the
Yeah, not to bore the non-engineers out there, but this is airflow. My nephew actually just graduated Michigan State with an engineering degree in aerospace, and he went right into basically designing HVAC systems, and it's one of these issues that it's like people don't think about it or know about it when it's working, right? Nobody's thinking about like how the air is flowing in the building, how fresh air is coming. Until it's broken or until there's a problem, you don't think about it. So that's a really interesting angle, because part of this series is trying to help other businesses look for their unique selling proposition or their USP or whatever. It's like, what are they? Where's that niche where they can do something for people that didn't even realize they had a problem before that problem arrives?
Well, I see a lot of times when people look at a building and they say, and this space here is a great space. The air conditioning's hidden.
Yeah.
The plumbing is hidden. I can
feel it.
It's here.
Yeah.
It's maintaining temperature, but you don't see it. Maybe a little bit over there, but the average person is not going to see it. And I think a lot of places, people that run a business like this, not to say anything about this specific business, but also aren't aware of that. The owners of the building aren't necessarily aware of that, and they see it's hidden behind a wall. The wall is aesthetically pleasing. Things are going great. My room's not hot, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, my space isn't maintaining temperature anymore. My people are hot. What am I going to do? And the issue may be a lot bigger than you realize, because there's stuff happening behind the wall that maybe people don't know. And a well-designed building, frankly, hides
a lot
the
of
plumbing,
problems,
the mechanical, even the electrical work that is required in there.
So in the interest of time, and honestly, I know this is like, it's silly to say, but like I want to dive into the sales side of things so badly, but I know we could get lost in that world. But in the interest of time here, we want to keep this series right around like 20, 25 minutes. There's two things I want to ask. The first thing is, as you guys were growing, like you were there for the whole journey, was there like a particular moment where you guys said to yourselves, like, maybe payroll is out of control, or maybe you lost a major piece of equipment? Was there a moment that you said, that's it, we gotta throw our hands in the air, we gotta go get different jobs? And then, like, what was it that you guys did to get back on track?
I feel like that happens almost on a weekly basis. It's hard for me to pick one specific one, but there's certainly been a lot of bumps in the road, and I think that they happen so frequently. We've gotten to the point where we say, a bump in the road is, I guess, a molehill rather than a mountain, and it's as far as, no, this is what I've done for a long time. I don't know that I don't know what I could do other than this, frankly.
Yeah. Just to drill in, was there like any like project that was so big, maybe it was like outside of your scope, and you guys had to scramble to satisfy that
happened
customer?
A lot of times, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, regularly you get thrown into stuff that's beyond your understanding, and I'm an HVAC plumbing guy, but I'll have times where, based on the contract, I have sprinklers, fire suppression sprinklers, and electrical thrown on me, and I'm familiar with them in the vaguest of terms, but I'm certainly not.
Right.
I'm not familiar with the codes. I don't really know the rules, and it's, that's happened many, many times.
Yeah.
And as long as you have, in my opinion, when you're willing to say, I don't understand this, and I need to ask somebody the question.
Yeah.
And you can even tell the customer that. I've done it my entire career.
Yeah.
Tell the customer, I don't know the answer. I'm willing to I need to ask somebody. I think the customer's going to respect you more than you giving them a frankly made up answer.
Yeah. No, I love that answer, particularly, like, I know you personally, right? And, like, we've been friends forever. Like, being humble is not something we really do often. But when it comes to
Rarely.
business, like, if you don't know the answer, saying I don't know the answer is one of the hardest things.
Well, when you
to
say
do.
I don't know the answer, but I think I know who might,
Right.
and then you maintain your position as the expert on the topic, and they allow you to bring in, your person of your choice to help you with the other side, then
Yeah.
that's where you want to be.
Got you. So last question kind of segues into personnel. Like you have a company size that I haven't actually had a group as big as yours on this podcast yet. So it's kind of like a two-part question. Number one is when you're looking to bring someone new in, or I don't know if you're the one who does the hiring or the interviews and stuff. Like, was there any sort of thought process that goes through your mind, knowing that you're always going to run into problems? And then second to that is once people are in, like, the project management aspect. How do you keep them in their lane? How do you keep people focused and not like bickering interdepartmentally, if that's a word?
Well, that's honestly been a growing issue for us.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the size we are now, around 50-ish employees, but we were at 30 employees about 4 years ago.
Right.
And at 30 employees, we were able, myself, Ed the owner, a couple other office personnel, were pretty much able to kind of handle everything. And we were almost like a fire department, putting out the fires as they came up. And as we've gotten bigger, as we've gotten more work, we've realized, why should I be? Why put out a fire when we can have somebody that can handle the fire before it arises?
Right.
And that's been a growing pain for sure. And I think to kind of offer some advice on that, I'd say that the best thing to do from early in the process is to kind of know where your lines are between this task and that task. And when you can figure out where your lines are, you can draw the interconnected points.
Do you use a project management tool, or is it in-house? Do you use Slack or Microsoft Teams?
No, not. We use Teams, but it's more industry-specific software that
Yeah.
We use Sage a lot, but I don't know.
Sage. Yeah.
I don't know how many people would know that kind of software, but it's more construction-specific software we use.
Gotcha.
We have some in-house proprietary apps that we have that work on all the guys' phones, field guys I'm talking about. And
You mean proprietary, like you built them in-house?
Correct, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's like a whole nother podcast, is at what size do you...
Join in for
what's that?
episode 2.
Season 2, episode 4. At what size do you shift off the very, very generic, scrappy apps out there, and you build something yourself that actually works internally, that maybe one day, too, you can license to other construction companies and things like that? But anyway, Rob, you are a wealth of knowledge. I could sit here for a while and talk to you about these things. But, thank you so much for joining the series. We got Mr. Rob Vander from Summit Mechanical in the house. Is there anything else you wanted to say? I'm going to obviously post a little website here if you want to check out Summit Mechanical for any of your construction mechanical solutions. You're all good, my man. You're all good.
I appreciate the time, and glad you could invite me. You've been a friend for a million years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I feel like a million more years to come. And if anybody needs help, give them my address. Let's figure it out.
We will, for sure. Yeah, we knew each other back in the Deuce Staley Westbrook days, But yeah, thank you so much again for joining. That's it for week 8 on It's Business Time. Mr. Rob Vander in the house. Thank you all for coming through. Thank you for Stitch House for having us. And we will see you next week.